Okay, what do you see yourself doing after racing?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So there was up until probably this year, maybe late last year, I was super fixated on racing alone and never had much in the way of aspirations outside of that. Um, Not saying that I knew that at some point I would, but they hadn't dawned on me yet. For whatever reason, lately, I have been getting a lot more interested in learning more about business ventures, marketing. Some of that is just due to the line of work, and you have to be good at marketing yourself. But I'm also getting curious about investing in property. Not that I'm at a point in my career where I can go crazy with investments and that sort of thing, but I'm starting to think more long term about I guess work after cycling. And it's really common for pro bike racers to do something in the industry, and I'm not sure that's the route I'm going to go. I've really enjoyed visiting some bigger cities lately and just seeing how quickly things move in those environments rather than this sleepy little mountain town, which I love. And so there's something that attracts me to the major leagues of of business.
Cool. I want to talk a little bit about your training now. Do you work with a coach?
Yeah, I've actually worked with the same coach since I was 15 years old, about 10 years now. His name's Christian Williams. He's out of Texas. He runs Williams Racing Academy. And I don't think he'll mind me saying there have been times in the past where I've been curious about trying other coaches, but I never really had a reason to really go after and pursue any other coaching. And we have such a great coaching relationship at this point that I don't think I could really be in any better hands. I think that's somewhat uncommon, but yeah, I'm
Cool.
happy.
Well, what every young aspiring rider wants to know, how do you train?
Ooh, yeah. That's constantly changing. I think for all racers, that's constantly changing. I mean, exercise science and exercise physiology and what we know about that is constantly improving. And so training changes. There are definitely some basic tenets that probably will never change. One of those being, once you get to a professional level, you just have to do it a lot. You have to train a lot. There's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about what overtraining means or that sort of thing. But once you're in good hands and you have access to good hands in terms of a coach, and you have access to all the charts and graphs and sports science that we have these days, it's pretty amazing what the human body can handle when you give it time to adapt over many years. So I guess one thing that's changed is I'm doing a lot more gym work the last few years. A lot of mostly body weight stuff, balance stuff, coordination stuff. I think probably the two bits of guidance I would give that have helped me the most are, one, ride with people that are better than you. That's the single best thing you can do. And two, get a coach that you can trust. It's surprisingly hard to find a quiet place in Durango.
It is. Oh, you just touched on another one of my questions. Do you usually train alone or with others?
I kind of go through phases. I would say that 4 to 5 days a week I train alone, and then most weekdays I'll do the Tuesday night group ride, which is this notorious road group ride here in Durango that happens during daylight savings, so from like March through November. And it's amazing. It's really a who's who of successful cyclists, professional cyclists, both present and past. Todd Wells, Ned Over, and Travis Brown, all those guys still get out there. But we have, Howard Grotz, Chris Blevins, Ben Sontag. I mean, I could go, and we have quite a few pro roadies here in town now too. Just the depth of talent in this town is unbelievable. And so we all kind of get together and just murder each other for an hour and a half on Tuesday evening. And if you do well in that group ride, you can pretty much go anywhere in North America and know that you have the capability to podium that weekend. I mean,
Nice.
it's really cool. It's one of the coolest training tools here in Durango.
We passed them. They were actually starting to head up toward Purgatory the other night. How high up do they go?
So that was probably the B ride. The A ride these days is just using 2 different routes. Oh, actually, no, you may have.
Levi was in the group.
Okay, you're right. So they were going up the highway probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So we kind of have 2 routes that we do. One is north up the valley, and then do 2 laps of this climb called Shalona, which is about a 7 to 10 minute climb. And then the other one is back this way, west, and that goes up about a 30-minute climb and then has some really fast rollers on the way home. But it's usually about an hour and a half and just unbelievably hard. I mean, I don't care who you are, you're gonna suffer.
Nice. Yeah, I was jealous of seeing them go up it. Not that I would have been anywhere near the front, but it looked fun.
Yeah.
So that actually touches on another question. Road bike versus mountain bike. Which do you train on most?
I'd say it's 50-50. It's probably 70-30 pavement to dirt, but I do some training on the road on my mountain bike. So I'll do quite a bit of motor pacing on my mountain bike, but on the road, just to be in that position. But again, that changes depending on the time of year and the races coming up.
Cool. All right, let's talk about nutrition a little bit. As an endurance athlete, you undoubtedly have to eat a lot of food to fuel your training. Do you follow a particular type of diet?
I follow the common sense diet.
Nice.
And by that I mean, for me personally, I absolutely acknowledge the fact that there are places and times for certain diets, and a lot of people do well with those for many different reasons. But personally, I can't be that strict with myself. Really, my quote-unquote diet is variety, balance, and moderation. If I can hit those 3
wise
things,
words.
Yeah, if I can hit those 3 things, usually I'm in good shape. So.
Any favorite pre or post-ride meals?
So if I'm riding or racing in the morning, my pre-ride meal pretty much every time is eggs and toast, sometimes with a little bells and whistles of avocado, or sometimes I'll combine the 2 even to make French toast. But eggs and toast are my staple for the morning. Post-race meal, I really love really all types of foods, and I try to eat fairly adventurously, especially when I'm on the road or in a foreign country. Just try to take advantage of that. So it varies a lot. Breakfast, for whatever reason, is pretty predictable for me, but other than that, I like variety.
Are you a good cook?
No. Well, that's a tough question. I can hold my own, and if I have the time and energy to put together a complicated meal, I can figure it out. But I would not call myself any sort of food hobbyist.
Cool. The van. We got to talk about the van.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to send us some pictures so we can post at the van.
Yeah.
How did the van come about?
So, when I grew up racing, my dad and I drove to the races in a 1987 Westfalia VW, and about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I wasn't living at home anymore, but it just happened to burn to the ground in a grocery store parking lot. And it was funny, I was, 1,000 miles away, but it still affected me emotionally, kind of. It was almost like a pet dying. And it sort of reminded me of how much fun it was just to road trip to races. And with a more national and international schedule now, driving isn't always practical, but I started to realize, as we would fly over the Grand Canyon or fly over the Mojave Desert or fly over anything that you could, look down and see that there was interesting geography down there, I started to think, it'd be cool to actually be able to see those places instead of seeing Durango, flying into the race, seeing the race course, and seeing the hotel and going home. So I said, you know what, I'm going to commit to driving to a lot more races, at least for a little while. And so I started looking into buying basically a Sprinter van. I ended up with a Ford Transit, the largest Ford Transit. And my dad and I built it out together this past winter, and just kind of tried to create like the ultimate personal team bus / road warrior, race day setup that also had that could accommodate some friends, so that it's almost like a rolling clubhouse too at the races. So it's been really fun. It's gotten pretty popular. It's always stocked with drinks and enduro bites and snacks of all kinds. So if you see it at the races, swing by and I'll throw you some goodies.
Cool. Do you live in it full time?
No. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. When I think the longest I've stayed in it is probably a week, and that was getting close to my limit. It's not a big space, and I see these young couples that are doing the van life thing full time and living together in one, and I have the largest of these vans that you can get, and still, I can't imagine living in one. I mean, kudos to the people that pull it off, but I'm very happy to have a house to come home to.
Cool. All right, your season so far. You've successfully defended your mountain bike marathon national championship. What are your main objectives for the rest of the season?
Yeah, so that was probably the biggest goal of the year. But there are so many awesome races these days that there's lots more to look forward to. So there's a couple other races that I won last year that I'd love to quote unquote defend again this year. One of those is that's coming up is the Schwamigan 40, which is a very old traditional mountain bike race with 3,000 participants up in the Lakes region. That's really cool. I've been really close to winning the Iceman Cometh the last couple of years, and I'd really love to pull that off soon. The Leadville 100 is coming up, which is kind of polar opposite to those two in some ways. I was third there last year, and I'd love to try to improve on that this year. We'll see how that goes. I think I'm also going to go over to Greece and do this 3-day stage race in October that I'm really excited about. There's one more Epic Rides event, a new one in Arkansas that's going to be really good. So there's lots more that I'm looking forward to this year. There's many more races to come.
Beyond this year, what do you want to have accomplished in cycling?
It sounds funny to feel settled, because I think as an athlete you never want to be settled, which I'm not in some regards. So I guess the way I'd put it is I'm really enjoying the schedule that I'm doing these days, where I get to hit a small handful of interesting one-off races that are far gone, whether that be Mongolia or the one I did in Argentina earlier this year, or the one in Greece that I'm hoping to do. I like sprinkling a few of those in, but the truth of the matter is North America is having this sort of rebirth of more traditional mountain bike races. I'm thinking about Epic Ride stuff, those sorts of events that are really showing some impressive numbers. And so I'm not as focused on the UCI Olympic type stuff right now. I don't want to retire without giving that Olympic trajectory a real hard shot, but it won't be for 2020, it'll be after that. So there's a lot of really cool races that I'd like to try to do well at still before chasing those Olympics.